All right, welcome everybody. My name is Matt Bond, Director of Network Strategy for the DentaQuest Foundation and also for your Oral Health 2020 network. So today we are doing an orientation for network response teams and network implementation teams. You might have some questions in your head like, what is a network response team? And that's what we're here to answer today. So some people might be interested in joining one of these teams. Some of you might already be on one. And some of you might just be here to learn more about what's happening in your Oral Health 2020 network. So this presentation is going to situate the network response teams, tell you which ones are currently going on, and give you an opportunity to have any questions that you have about the teams answered. Can we go to the next slide, Francis? So it's important for us always to stay grounded in what we're really all about in the long run, right? And at our core, as the Oral Health 2020 Network, we are committed to social justice. And we believe that the way that we have an opportunity to promote social justice is by taking a health equity approach to our work. And what that looks like is that everybody should have the same opportunity to live a healthy life. Not everybody has. This isn't to say that everybody will be equally healthy, but it means that they have the same shot at it, no matter who they are. And we're also committed that oral health. If you're in poor oral health, you're not healthy. We know that oral health is a chronic disease, or can be. Oral health is a chronic disease. Dental disease is chronic disease, and it's preventable. And we have the tools and the knowledge to be able to prevent it. And until we all have the same opportunity of being healthy, we'll continue to live in an unjust society. So the Oral Health 2020 Network is a group of individuals at the local, state, and national level that has said enough is enough. And our job is to support people in having that same fair shot. Next slide. So why do network response teams and network implementation teams matter? Why did we create these things, and why are they a part of the network infrastructure? Well, we'll talk a little bit about how networks work and also how you change systems throughout the course of the presentation before we jump into the specifics. And I love this quote. It's just a reminder that we don't need to engage in grand heroic actions to participate in the process of change. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. And that really, at our core, is what this network's all about. So, why do we use a systems change lens? How do we actually change systems? As you probably have heard before, when we talk about oral health and healthcare and improving the healthcare system in general, it really is a wicked problem. It's one of those huge, intractable issues. And it really is a collected set of problems that are interconnected with one another. So how do you understand something so complex? Well, systems thinking really gives us an opportunity to understand the issue and how we can actually impact it. When you talk about systems, there's three levels. The elements that live within the system. So when you think about the oral health system, those include things like patients, providers, care delivery clinics, etc. And then those elements are all linked together through a series of relationships. So again, in our field, that's things like provider reimbursement rates, scope of practice acts. And then when you look at how the elements are working together through the relationships that connect them, the entire sum total of that actually forms a larger coherent purpose that no one set out to create that purpose. It just sort of emerges out of the collective actions of each of those things. So when we talk about changing a system, we're really trying to impact it on all three levels in order to be able to create the sort of impact that we're out to cause. And the best way that we've found to be able to do that is a network approach that offers us, a collective, again, of individuals and organizations from across the country, which allows us to deploy knowledge and innovation quickly. It allows us to share tools and resources, and it allows us to create a larger push on the system that can actually move it in a way that can't happen on its own. So these last two bullets are things that are particularly relevant to our conversation today. And the first says that it only works if people actually in the network get that it's their network, right? So, we work, me and the rest of the network support team and the backbone organization of the network work to support the network, but it's owned by all the members. Network members determine the vision, the goals, the targets, the direction the network's moving in, all of its infrastructure. And by being a part of it, you are an owner of it. And it's really important to come from that perspective because, it gives us a sense of not only the leadership opportunities that we have to drive this national effort, but also, the responsibility that it carries by being a part of the work. And the way that, so they always say that networks require two things in order to flourish. The first is strong connections amongst its members, and the second is that it generates value for its members. So, how do you generate value? Well, start with building strong, authentic relationships between network members, provide structure that facilitates action and connection among members. And when you can do all those things, that's where value is generated. And that's really what the network infrastructure is all about. Next slide. So I know this circle is hard to read on the screen. The reason that we're showing you this is just to show you where in the network support infrastructure the network response and implementation teams are located. But just as a reminder, this circle sort of represents the entire network and what we're all about. And you see, our focus on health equity and greater social justice is at the core of what we do. On the outside ring, the gray ring, it just lists other social justice movements that are linked to health and oral health. The blue ring represents our goals and targets as a network, and it has our vision in there. And then the lighter orange ring is each level of network, and it talks about their unique contributions to the work. So whether you're a grassroots network member that's focused on really community-driven solutions that come from the ground up and people's real as lived experience informing the way that we actually tackle these challenges, or you're a grass middles representative, which focuses on technically informed strategies. So, these are our professional advocates, our people that are trained at a high level to implement larger scale change at the state and national levels. And then, or your grass tops network member, which focuses on sustained policy outcomes. And the contribution at the national level is sort of a double-edged sword in the sense that it's really hard to make national level change, but when we do, it gives us sustained outcomes over time. And then the reason for our call today are those blood orange quadrants right there in the center of the circle. And that are the components of the network support infrastructure. So you'll see that there's a National Oral Health Connection team that is comprised of a cross-section of network members from all levels across the country. Regional Oral Health Connection teams that represent 4 areas in the country. Local oral health connection teams that are still being developed. And finally, network response teams. And where these network response teams came from is that the National Oral Health Connection team was charged with looking at the health of the network as a whole. And, not from the perspective of the work that the network does, but the network itself. What does it need in order to accomplish the goals and the targets that we've declared for ourselves? And so it organized itself into 5 working groups that provide value to network members in different ways. One of them focuses on health equity and providing tools and resources for network members to understand equity and implement equity-focused efforts. Another focuses on network communications, improving our own communications capacity, and also developing communications that we can then present to the outside world. There's another focused on stewardship and learning, the idea of which is to develop network leadership capacity and foster learning. And there's a 4th focused on the sustainability of the network and how we engage funders, and a 5th that's focused on the operations of the network as a whole. And while each of those working groups has made amazing contributions to the network and has developed a lot of tools and resources that can help us all do our work more efficiently, they also recognize that there are some emergent needs that aren't currently accounted for in the network infrastructure. An example of that is, last year when the elections went the way they went, we realized that there was probably going to be a lot of disruption in the policy environment, and we weren't prepared to be able to provide the kind of information that people needed in order to manage those shifts. And so the representative of the National Rural Health Connection team fostered the development of the policy working group, which many of you are probably familiar with. And these folks deploy real-time policy information to network members and host a webinar each month that highlights the current policy challenges that we're all facing. So this is an example of how we identify needs of network members and then develop a team to tackle those needs and address them. And so that's kind of how network response teams work. And now we're going to give you a deeper dive into what they look like, what principles they're grounded in, what the process is that they go through, and how you can join one today. So I'm going to turn it over to Frances.
Thanks, Matt. Excellent job. And also I realized because I am both moderating this call and showing the slides that if the screen goes gray and you can't see the slides, it's because I am off muting one of you. So it would help a lot if everybody can make sure that they are muted if you're taking another call or if you're shuffling papers at your desk. So that said, the role of the network response teams. So as we are forming these based on any emergent issues, any network member that's interested in taking on a more active role in leadership, they're invited to join, and they're also invited to champion any causes. And so the activities of the teams are informed by whatever emerging needs that the network has. And these needs can be identified during convenings, during work groups. A lot of the ones that are currently in formation or underway have been identified by the NOCT working groups and just different issues that come into play as we move along. So the teams are comprised of members that have interest and expertise in specific content areas, and they're responsible for developing strategy for all the different projects that are going to be coming out of these response teams. So as we develop the strategies and deliver specific products to the network, we'll also be tracking and reporting back on them, and all of these would be defined in the respective teams' roles and responsibilities and developed and planned together during the launch and subsequent meetings. So the infrastructure of the teams, we are planning to have one of the network support team members, either myself, Fatima, Matt. I don't think Matt is doing too much facilitation, but we have team members in place that are going to help to facilitate the groups and be able to help with setting the agendas and moving the work along. And so outside of that facilitation, we see that there would be content experts in each group that's relevant to the response teams, and then any other network members that are interested but might not be content experts are also still incredibly more than welcome to bring the perspective and experience of network members into the conversation. So we're looking for cross-blade representation, anybody working at the grassroots level or at the state level or at the national level, diversity in regions as well as in your primary targets. So all are very much welcome. And some guiding principles for each of the work group. We want to say that anybody involved in these teams, you are automatically opting yourself in to be a responsible steward of network resources, understanding that there are some constraints, but that we all want to get to the same end and do so collectively. And so network members and the backbone organization collectively implement group projects. So if you guys have wonderful ideas but don't have the time outside of work group meetings to be able to implement said great ideas, their network support team is also here to help with those. We want to make sure that the group projects advance a health equity and social justice framework, promote cross-sharing, learning, and relationship building among all parties, and build the capacity of network members. So this process is going to ensure all network members' voices are heard and recognized as having value. We want to promote fun and creativity. And right now in 2018, this is starting the pilot for these response and implementation teams. Hopefully, we'll develop some really stellar processes and plans that we can move forward and continue this great work. And so this graphic, it might be difficult to read the smaller text, but it will come in subsequent slides. But so from the forming to the work and reporting back out, we have some specifics here. So the work groups that are coming together so far have been identified by a champion, and those champions have just said, like, I'll take Marsha Brand, for example, who is championing the rural demographic and saying, you know what, this is an issue that I want to make sure that people are jumping on board. Let's find some solutions for our communities that are out in the rural parts of our country. So Marsha became this champion. She identified some core team members and put together a draft, role, responsibility, purpose of the group. And so the next step from there is to get all these core team members together and launch. So anybody that comes together after the launch, that's fine. We just have everybody review what these network response teams are, get them up to speed. Your network support team will be creating a shared Google Drive folder for each group, and that will have tracking sheets that will also create calendar invites for everybody, trying to keep everybody on the same page, quite literally. And then, so we can all share and take a look at the tracking sheets together to make sure everybody's, up to speed. And we also, our intention is to track attendance and track contributions. We're doing this for all of the national and regional team members as well, just for accountability purposes. We have not yet decided if that's going to be something that's public for the whole group to see or not. So that's also, I think, going to be up to the group. And then the team is going to determine what, if any, items require network-wide input and require feedback. And then we'll have a monthly summary going out in the network spotlight, and then any completed resource would be filed on Socius and promoted via Take 20. So we have all these really great tools in place. So it's going to be a great way to start utilizing them more broadly and sharing out network-wide. And so these are the existing response and implementation teams, and I realize I did a bad job lining up all the circles over their bullet points, but my key is in the bottom right. So fully operational, green means go, and then the information, or there's a few of the implementation teams that we do not yet have a champion for. So if you are called to become that champion, this is the team. Now is the time. So the response teams that we have, Matt mentioned policy as one of them. We have data measurement, frameworks launch, network branding, and then so for the convenings, we have both the planning for the year underway, but then each of those convenings are going to need individual convening design teams. And then we have the rural, Latino, and youth response teams, and then the implementation teams, which involve less noodling brain power, but they involve direct ongoing work. That would be the welcome wagon that would, reach out and welcome all new members, Socius page facilitators, blog squads, and then Take 20 and Network Spotlight implementers. So those are what we have so far, and all of the roles and responsibilities that have been developed so far, those are also being shared out. And the next steps and timeline for this, we're asking that by the end of next week that all team champions are finished with identifying and recruiting core team members that have, content experts and any other interested network members. The Nest will help you. We'll create the team folders, tracking sheets, and socials pages. And then we'll plan for the launch meeting, with whomever your facilitator will be. And then starting in February is when we'll hold the remainder of the launch meetings to determine the team strategy, work plan, the frequency of the meetings, and then we can report back the work plans for the year and the timeline of these virtual meetings. Um, so that is what we have so far. If there's any questions on any of that, I hope that was quite clear. Um, does anyone have any questions? And you can also type them into the chat box.
And this is Matt too, and just to summarize, this is sort of an emergent strategy that came out of the fact that network members were expressing a desire to forward various components of the work in a way that would impact everyone. So it's an opportunity for your leadership and also an opportunity to generate value and see causes that people are committed to move forward. So actually, and we've been working on this for a while, but just even in watching the description of them, I'm pretty pumped about it. I mean, it's an awesome way to really impact the network's direction and moving forward, and all network members have an opportunity to participate. So, anyways, great job as well, Francis. And if you want, I can look at the questions so it doesn't pull you off screen. So our first question here says, can the presenter speak a little? Oh. Can you speak a little louder if you have anything else to say, Francis?
I will do my best. I've never
Okay,
been told
thanks.
that I don't speak loudly enough, but I'll keep that in mind.
Um, so the green ones, are they still open? Yeah. So the key on that slide was referring to ones that are sort of set up and launched versus ones that either are lacking a champion and require a champion, or ones that we're still forming. So of course, membership is open to any of the existing ones. You can email us and we'll get you set up with them. Um, if someone would like more information or talk further about a group, who would they connect with, Matt or Francis? Either one of us. And I'll also throw Fatima into the mix, who will be happy to answer your questions as well. I know she's on the line, and we'll be happy that I volunteered your time to you.
And I will also let you guys know that if you want a more timely response, Fatima or myself will probably be able to get one of those to you.
How do you want us to go about letting you know which group we would like to be in? Yeah, so really just reach out to any of your network support team members, and we're happy to get you pointed in the right direction. I recognize that we didn't put our contact information in here, so maybe I'll just type it in the chat while I'm not talking.
And
So you
so
guys
if
can.
you all were informed of this, you know, this launch orientation webinar via Blue Jeans, and that came with the descriptors for each of the response teams, implementation teams, as well as a survey that you can indicate your content expertise or, whatever else that sets you apart, and whichever groups you want to. I know some of you were able to fill that out already, but that the link is also in there. And fair warning, I like to send my emails with hyperlinks. Okay.
We have another question here. Will teams have a chance to meet with each other once everyone is finalized, or is this unnecessary? So, Francis, why don't you take that one while I finish typing our email addresses?
Yeah, so once everyone is finalized, we'll be meeting on a Blue Jeans. And I would assume that the meetings would take place monthly. I know the policy work group meets bi-monthly. Um, and it all depends. If Nataki, your question is if this is everybody coming together in person, I don't think any of the response teams would require an in-person meeting. But yeah, the Blue Jeans will be available for all response teams and implementation teams to work together, and then those groups will decide their own kind of availability and how often. And then can you put the slide up again that shows the groups newly forming ones, please? Yes, I will put that up right now. And then how much time do you think would be needed to be dedicated to this work? Um,
I can do that if you want to focus on the slides for a sec. I'm done typing now. It really is dependent on the group's purpose, and they're each gonna have an opportunity to develop their own working norms and their own way of executing the functions that they've defined for themselves. Some examples, we have groups that meet once every month or so, and then the policy working group, I think, meets once every 2 weeks. So we've seen different frequencies of interaction, and it's probably going to be dictated slightly by the nature of what the group is doing, and also the group members will get to define how much it is. Is there a description for each group? Not not entirely. Some of the ones that have been formed have descriptions, and some of the ones that are in formation are still being developed. But we can post the descriptions that are complete on Socius again for everybody, just so you can see that information. And
I'm
did
popping
we
this
get?
page into
Okay.
the chat box as well. So these are all of the response and implementation teams. Oh, I see there's a whole bunch of people on here right now. And you can click these wonderful hyperlinks if you want to chop directly down to uh, any of their specific roles and responsibilities. So we have all that together. And then I know Carolyn with the youth response, she's with the Yes group. She has her um, roles and responsibilities drafted, so those will be uploaded quite soon. I think that's our only one that does not have him yet.
There's also Grace, thanks for sending that. There's an interest form that people can fill out as well, as a way for us to track if you're thinking about it and want to follow up conversation, um, or you have more questions. Feel free to fill out that form and get it to us, and we'll be monitoring those as well. It's a good way to sort of get yourself linked into what's going on. Um, so will we be sending out the presentation? We can post these slides. We're going to post the recording on Socius, and we can definitely post the slides too. So why don't we do a last call? We'll wait another minute here. If anybody else has burning questions, now's an opportunity to ask them. When are we gonna launch it? So for the first round, for the initial rounds, our goal is to get any remaining ones that don't have champions staffed up, and then any new ones, we'd like to have those conversations sooner rather than later. I think our target is to have, the first meeting of the year, the first launch meeting of the year executed in February. And it's flexible, but that's the cohort timeline that we're operating in. And I mean, these are things that could be launched at any point, so that's not necessarily like written in stone. But for this, at least for the first go around, that's the timeline we're operating on. And then if you're interested in forming one and maybe needing a little bit more time, we can always start having the conversation and launch it at a later date.
But yeah, any ideas that you have for forming a new response team, you can email myself, Fatima, or anyone from the Nest. And if you are interested in joining something that already exists, you can also email one of us, or just if you go ahead into the Survey Monkey, that's where we'll be directing you anyways. So that's also a more direct way to make sure that your name is added to all the email rosters. But we do plan on launching these, all throughout the month of February. And if at any point, if you want to join in June, we can get you up to speed, and you can join at any time that the groups are meeting.
And I guess one other thing I'll just throw out there is that you're all members of the network being on this DGenes call, so you're aware of this already. But as a reminder, everybody else out there are also like committed people that really want to make a difference in this issue area. That's what bonds us at our core because we're all committed to the same things in the long run. So if you have an idea and you're concerned about launching it, don't be, because I guarantee you there are people out there that want to pitch in. And similarly, you can rest assured that if you're passionate about an issue, you can trust that if there's a team launch that they'd welcome you to pitch in with open arms.
Beautiful.